and you, we're here. Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our guest today is Colonel Raymond Toth, who is the new commander at AEDC, and we wanted to take this opportunity to learn a little bit more about Colonel Toth, and also to bring us up to date on things that are going on out at AEDC. So, Colonel Toth, thanks very much for taking time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Good. Give the folks a little personal goings on. What's with the Toth family?
Well, I have a wife and 2 children. My wife's name's Teresa. We've been married for a little over 23, almost 24 years now. We actually got married just before I went on active duty, back in 1989, April of '89. And I have 2 kids, like I alluded to. My son, Daniel, he'll be 16 in December. He's a sophomore over at Tullahoma High School.
Okay.
And my daughter, Erin, who's 19 years old, who just recently graduated in August from Air Force Basic Training, and is now just about finished with her tech school. She's going to be a medical records technician in the Air Force. She'll be assigned to Lackland Air Force Base, working at the hospital there in the maternity ward. Will be her first assignment. So, so we're very excited for her. It's kind of interesting. We had spent 3 years in Washington, D.C., actually in Burke, Virginia, and she spent her first 3 years in high school there. And then we moved to Alamogordo, New Mexico for her senior year, which was not a pleasant experience for her, I think.
Yeah.
But it was the funny thing is she had said at that time she wanted nothing to do with the military. Once she graduated from high school, she was going to go do her thing, and then a year and a half later decided she really enjoyed the military life. And
guess what her thing is.
Exactly. So
well, she's still in a good career, you know.
Absolutely.
There'll always be plenty of jobs outside in that field as well.
Absolutely, and you know, given the current economic environment, it's nice to know that she has a steady paycheck, and that she will be learning a skill that's marketable on the outside.
Sure will. Okay, very good. Let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and talk some more.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard because residents matter most.
This is J.D. Oliver here at the Smokehouse on Monteagle Mountain. My sisters Betsy, Nancy, and I'd like to thank you for supporting our family business for over 50 years.
Hello, this is Stella Parton, and I am standing here right in the middle of Jim Oliver's Smokehouse restaurant. But you need to come in here. We just got through doing a show. We also have a music scene going on here, and I want to invite you to come down because it is your mountain destination. Music on the Mountain in Monteagle, Tennessee.
My name's Betsy Oliver. I'm the kitchen manager here. We serve a lot of ribs and barbecue and fried chicken.
Hey, this is Sean Mayer, and I just want to let everybody know to stop in at the Smokehouse if you're ever on your way to Chattanooga or Nashville. They not only have a great gift shop, awesome food, great entertainment on Saturday nights, but beautiful cabins to stay in. Check it out.
Make the Smokehouse your mountain getaway destination. Stay in one of our 84 lodge rooms and 20 timber frame log cabins. Look around our trading posts and eat in our delicious restaurant. Enjoy music on the mountain every Saturday night featuring the best of Nashville. Our family hopes to see you this year at Jim Oliver Smokehouse.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Colonel Raymond Toth, who is the new commander at AEDC. And we had a little background on him, personal. Give us a little background in your military career up to this point.
Sure. Well, I started out as a navigator. I went through navigator training at Mather Air Force Base after I graduated from college. And my first assignment was an F-15E Wizzo, so a backseater weapons systems officer in the F-15E. And so after graduation from Mather, I went off to Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, where I went through the replacement training unit is what it was called at the time, to learn how to be a WISO in the F-15E. First assignment was at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and spent 4 years there from 90 basically to 94. And my goal had always been to be a pilot and to be a test pilot. And so while I was in college, my eyes weren't quite up to snuff for being a pilot. But once you're on active duty, the standards change. So I had applied for pilot training while I was at Seymour Johnson and was accepted. And so in '95, I went to pilot training down at Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas. And my first assignment out of there was as an F-16 Block 50 pilot in Spangdahlem Air Force Base in Germany. And so we spent 3 years in Germany. That's where my son was born. My daughter was born in North Carolina. And I loved it. F-16 was a fantastic airplane, and it was probably one of the best squadrons I ever served in. Very close-knit, great squadron. After Germany, I wound up as an AT-38 instructor pilot down at Randolph Air Force Base in Texas. And while I was there, I applied for test pilot school, because as I said, I had always wanted to be a test pilot. And I was selected while I was at Randolph Air Force Base for test pilot school. But first, they thought I needed to be a little smarter, so they sent me to AFIT, the Air Force Institute of Technology, to get a master's degree in aeronautical engineering.
Oh, yes.
And so I prepped my thesis, which the intent was that I would go to AFIT, pick a thesis that I could actually fly while I was at test pilot school. And so I did some work on F-16 weapons release, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to fly it while I was at test pilot school. So test pilot school is a year-long course where we train pilots, flight test engineers.
Is that at Edwards?
It is.
Okay, it is.
And so in 2002, I was Class O2A, went to Edwards for test pilot school, and then I stayed on at Edwards after that and went to the 416th Flight Test Squadron, where I did F-16 and T-38 flight test. Eventually, I was finished up there as the operations officer, and then I was lucky enough to be selected to be the F-22 Combined Test Force commander out of F-16 testing. So I just moved straight down the road and took over the 411th Flight Test Squadron, the F-22 Combined Test Force, and was the squadron commander there from 2005 to 2007. And after that, I had to do my obligatory Pentagon tour. So I went off to the Pentagon in 07 to 09 and worked in the Air Force Legislative Liaison Office in the Weapons Systems Division, so where I was basically in charge of all special access programs and worked with Congress on all the different Air Force programs and platforms. And from there, I worked for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force in his Strategic Studies Group for about a year and a half. After that, I was selected to go to Industrial College of the Armed Forces right at Fort McNair in Washington, D.C. Fantastic course for my senior developmental education. And then after that, 2010 to 12, I was at Holloman Air Force Base as the 46th Test Group Commander, and from there came out here to
Here you are.
Out here to Middle Tennessee.
Well, you have been around.
I have.
And that all sounds a little bit like fast track. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about AEDC. We're all aware, I'm sure, that the Department of Defense is going to be undergoing some budget constraints, and no doubt that's going to filter down to everybody else that's involved. What do you see at AEDC? Do you have any visibility yet on where things are going?
Well, we do, and the big issue out there, obviously, is sequestration. If we look apart from sequestration, our budget is fairly stable. As a matter of fact, we're going to be doing...
You're probably going to have to tell them what sequestration is.
Sure, I'll get to it in a second. But our base budget for fiscal year 12, which we're finishing up now, and 13 are roughly about the same. We actually see quite a bit more work coming in FY13. Good. Because this past year we were doing a lot of improvement projects. We had a number of our test cells and capabilities shut down so that we could do some refurbishment work on them. So getting back to sequestration, last year in many of the budget deliberations, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the bill, but the president had asked and put together a super committee to try to come up with ways to reduce the budget deficit. And the outcome of that was that if they could not come up with a policy that would reduce the budget, there would be automatic budget reductions that would kick in January of year 13. Well, Congress...
The cliff.
Exactly, the fiscal cliff. Unfortunately, Congress didn't come to a compromise. And so right now, we're facing the potential that in January of next year, the fiscal cliff will hit, and we will see a reduction of $500 billion over 10 years. So $50 billion per year. And as you stated...
Is that just for the whole Air Force?
That's for the whole DOD.
Oh, DOD.
So not just the Air Force.
Okay.
What it roughly equates to is about a 9.5% hit to the budgets across all budget accounts in OSD. So we would, and there may be some adjustment of that within the Air Force or within the Department of Defense. Now, we can't touch the personnel accounts, so pay raises, TRICARE, those kind of things don't get touched. So it's our capabilities, our infrastructure, those types of things are where the budget
Hardware.
reductions will be taken. And so we have a plan in place at Arnold in case sequestration does hit. And if it does, it will be a challenge, and we will be likely forced to shut down some capabilities. We have 47 capabilities at Arnold, so we do have some room. And some of those capabilities are unique in the world, unique in the United States, and some of them are frankly redundant. Redundant whether there's a capability that exists at NASA or it exists at other contractor facilities. And so that's where we would look to take those budget hits, as well as in some of our quality of life programs away from the mission areas as much as possible. But the reality is our quality of life programs, they are in many ways just as important as our mission capabilities, because if you don't take care of your people, you don't have a workforce
Sure.
that can do the testing that we have to do here.
Well, let's hope the Congress is going to get busy somewhere between election and January and fix the fiscal cliff.
I am cautiously optimistic that after the election, regardless of who wins the election, that there will be enough focus on that fiscal cliff that hopefully we'll find a solution.
Yeah, I'll be amazed if it happens. Let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah, keeping the fingers crossed.
Go ahead.
I said keeping my fingers crossed.
Oh, okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I've seen a couple of articles recently that indicate you've got some new capabilities. Have you got a new test facility or two?
We do. Our newest capability is called STAT, which is Space Threat Assessment Test Bed. And what we're doing it's a space chamber, and it allows us the ability to test spacecraft in a realistic environment against realistic threats. So some typical threats that we're concerned about are directed energy, so whether it's a laser dazzler shot at an optical satellite, or other types of directed energy weapons, or even ASAT, direct descent ASATs, much like China employed back in 2007 against a weather satellite. So it gives us the ability to look at those satellites in a realistic environment against realistic threats. We expect to reach initial operational capability early in fiscal year 13, around the March timeframe.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and go some more.
Hi, Grandma. It's Jake. I'm calling to tell you I love you more than anything in the whole wide world, even ice cream. I love you more than spaghetti and meatballs. I love you more than snakes and monkeys and sharks and whales and praying mantises. Bye, Grandma. Love you.
Let it all in with Charter Phone, including unlimited local and long-distance calls.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Colonel Raymond Toth, who is the new commander at AEDC, and we've been more recently catching up on what the situation is there. And I wanted to ask you, Colonel Toth, I've noticed the couple of articles recently have talked more about space, and I know, of course, the Air Force is involved in space, but do you also have NASA involved there? Are you doing work with or for NASA?
We absolutely do, and we have a very robust partnership with NASA, as a matter of fact. One of the more recent programs that we've done with NASA involved our National Full-Scale Aerodynamics Complex out in California, which is part of the NASA Ames Research Facility, as well as our facilities here at Arnold and up in White Oak, Maryland. And that was part of the NASA Curiosity rover, where we tested the parachute, the deceleration device, which you can see in a lot of the photos and videos of the rover actually entering the atmosphere and landing it in Mars, and as well as the heat shield. So we tested the heat shield here at Arnold in some of our arc heater capabilities, and also at Tunnel 9, which is our complex up at White Oak, Maryland. And we also looked at some of the heat shield capabilities up there in our hypersonic wind tunnel. Not only that, but we do a lot of work with NASA on the slow speed side out at NFAC in California in rotorcraft development. And that's primarily our large wind tunnel, where we do up to about 300 miles per hour and down to 0. And then
rotorcraft.
Helicopters.
For NASA?
Well, NASA does a lot of aerodynamics research to try to broaden the horizons on what you can do with a helicopter, as well as other types of aerodynamics. So,
and now we're trying to fly one without a pilot.
Absolutely, and actually we do fly many without pilots right now, helicopters and small UAS that are out there. So yeah, absolutely. But our partnership with NASA is robust in the hypersonics regime. You know, in hypersonics you think about aircraft a lot of times, but almost all NASA vehicles are hypersonic vehicles of one way, shape, or form. And so we test those out here with our across the multitude of our capabilities.
Okay, very good. Well, you've also, down through the years, we've had a varying kind of partnership or relationship with UTSI, and I know especially early on they were very active in doing graduate work for the employees and also Blue Suiters. So what's going on these days? You have anything going on with them? We do, and you know, as you stated, it started out as a very robust partnership and program, you know, in the 60s and 70s, and I think over time it is some of that cooperation has kind of dwindled off, but we are trying to rebuild and reuse the corporate knowledge and the intellectual capital at UTSI to help us, again, at Arnold, become and build that partnership with UTSI and make it a lot stronger than it's been maybe in the recent past. But some of the things we have out there, we have some J85 engines that UTSI, and that's the engine that's in the T-38. So it's a turbojet engine. And UTSI uses that in conjunction with Arnold to do some technology development programs. We've recently had General Electric and some other corporations and technology test beds that we work through UTSI to help develop new technologies for engines for the future. And they've been looking at some new augmenter technologies, so afterburner technologies and combustor technologies out at UTSI with us. And among other things, we want to build that intellectual capital and the partnerships so that we can have some of the students there, whether they be just civilian students or whether they be some of our military or civilians, doing master's and potentially PhD work that directly affects and helps us at Arnold with either technology development or looking at some unique problems that we encounter in some of our testing. So I'm looking forward to building a much more robust capability and partnership with UTSI. Oh, good. And I know your Blue Suiters who might get involved in advanced degrees here and for several years they have been continuing this work online, so that if your folks have to move before they've finished, they still have a chance to.
Well, and it is absolutely critical for us, because a lot of our blue suiters are brand new second lieutenants. It's what we call a session, so straight out of college. And it's important, particularly for our engineers, to get advanced academic degrees. So having UTSI right next door and be able to couple their master's theses with unique problems that we have at Arnold is crucial for us and for our development of our force. So
sure.
It's great. It's a great partnership.
Good. Super. How about you and the community? What do you need from us?
Well, we need the community support, and I'm not saying that the community support has not been good, because it has been fantastic. I'll tell you, for me personally, coming here, it's been one of the greatest places that I've come to, friendliest places that I've come to. I grew up in a big town. My wife grew up in a big town, Philadelphia, but we have come to love the small towns. And I'm not joking. This actually surprised me. My son came home from school after the first week at Tullahoma High, and he said how much he enjoyed the school, which I never thought would come out of a 10th grader's mouth ever. But he said everybody was extremely welcoming and trying to help him out and get him through the school day and help him get to the right places. And it's been that way for all three of the local communities. Everywhere that we've been, folks have just been fantastic. They're welcoming and helping us fit into the community. But more importantly for Arnold and for AEDC, having the support of the communities is really critical for us, and the advocacy of the local communities for what, not just our workforce, but for what it is that we do at Arnold. And talking with our local politicians, whether they be at the state level or the federal level, our senators, our congressmen, and telling them, letting them know how important Arnold is, not just to the local community. I mean, frankly, we contribute about $700 million per year in local economic impact. 2,500 folks roughly work at Arnold, and about 1,800 secondary jobs are part of the Arnold community. And so having the local businesses and the local civic leaders pay attention to who we are, and not just how they can help us, but how we at Arnold can help the local communities also in giving back, whether that be partnering with the Red Cross or any of the local volunteer communities, the VA hospital. Our VA Day is coming up here on the 4th of October, and it's one of those things that we like to be able to do to give back to the local community.
Yeah, you house a VA clinic out there too. Yeah,
you bet.
I have some familiarity with.
Yeah, so it's critically important that we do everything we can at Arnold to help our surrounding communities in various ways through STEM outreach, science, technology, engineering, and math with the local schools. We have a new STEM outreach center on base, and we've been working with some of the local high schools to get the kids excited about those subjects. And so we have the Lego League. We've built some capabilities at the Winchester High School that we'll be unveiling here in the next week or two for how we help them with their STEM initiatives in the high schools. So it's very important for us.
Yes. Well, very important for the communities too.
Absolutely.
We're falling very far behind on STEM education, and it's not easy to get started, and unfortunately we have a hard time interesting the kids at the right level.
Absolutely.
You can't wait till they're up in high school.
Right, we got to catch them at the middle school, at the latest really, at the middle school area. And I'll tell you, Jeremati, who's our STEM coordinator at the base, he's fantastic. And the STEM outreach folks from the local communities have all been fantastic also. So I think we have a great team in the Coffee and Franklin County areas partnering up with Arnold to try to get kids excited about it.
Well, very good. I remember some earlier guest on the program saying that if you don't get the kids interested in science by the time they hit the 3rd grade, your chances of getting them later on are decreasing.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, guess what? We've run out of time. We're going to have to take a short commercial break and wrap up.
Mark, you've won just about everything there is to win in racing. What's next?
I'd like more people to know about ER Extra.
The emergency room at Harton Regional Medical Center?
I just want them to get the best care they can get.
That just gets me right here, Mark.
Maybe you'd like to pay them a visit.
ER Extra at Harton Regional Medical Center.
ER Extra. Extra fast, extra easy, extra great.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We've been talking today, folks, with Colonel Raymond Toth, who is the new commander at AEDC, and very important, and we've had a very interesting show. So, Colonel Toth, would you like to speak directly to the folks?
You bet. And like we just discussed during the break, I am very excited about being here at Arnold, and I want to ensure the community that I want to do everything I can to help the local communities or to partner with the local communities and be active in the local communities. For me, Arnold is a little bit remote when you come out there, as I'm sure many of you are aware. So to be able to get out and interact with the local communities and our civic leaders is very important for me and for, I think, Arnold in general. So I look forward to any opportunity to be able to get out there and work with the communities, whether it be for science, technology, engineering, and math, whether it be working with the local charities to bring some of the capabilities that we have at Arnold and ensure that they are used in our local communities. And so hopefully you'll see myself and my family out and about, whether it be Winchester, Tullahoma, Manchester. We try to share our time equally among the communities, and we're looking forward to
very good
to working with you.
And Colonel Toth, I'd like to thank you very much for taking time to join us. I know you have a busy schedule, and folks, we are glad you invited us into your parlor, and we will see you next time.